to Our Daily Show with CJ Nasello on RiverBender.com.
Stop thinking about you. Found myself wishing you were there.
Welcome back to Our Daily Show. It is 10:30. A little bit of Elvis for everybody on this 26th day of July. Bill Dettmers, Jeremey, Councilman for the city of Wood River. Guys, how are we doing today?
Good.
Wonderful, thank you.
A little bit of Elvis music, because last time you were on, Bill, I know that...
My wife likes it.
And, I really appreciate you guys joining me today, because as we've seen, the last couple of months with the way City Council has gone, a lot of the public comments have, kind of made the headlines or maybe made an article. And I figured, it's always good to actually talk about the issues, at City Council and the actual business being done. Sure. Instead of the static that sometimes overtakes it. So I really appreciate you guys stopping by today.
Appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, the voters spoke in April. They want transparency and accountability, and they want, the city council to move forward, and they want responsive government. And so that's what we intend to do, and it's what we're hoping to do now. So
yeah, absolutely. And then right off the bat too, I think a lot of this started with the dispensary, and people were whether this was a good idea, whether it was a bad idea. What were your guys' thoughts on how this kind of got out of hand, or maybe started becoming more grandiose than what City Council normally calls for?
Well, I think that when I was campaigning. Just a couple of weeks before the election, the number one topic was the dispensary. Mm-hmm. I mean, the city had already taken action on that, but the people were pretty much, I think it's an open question as to whether or not the people want a dispensary, mm-hmm. but overwhelmingly the comments I received that they did not want to have it downtown. So, Jeremy and I and Dr. Harris had talked about it, and we were trying to make the city more transparent, open, because of all the problems that we'd had in the past. The city ignored the referendum on the rec center. Mm-hmm. We asked the council to allow us to vote on financing, and they wouldn't allow us to vote on it. So my approach, and Jeremy and Dr. Harris agree with it, that we wanted to make this a more open and transparent council. Yeah. And that's why we voted to allow the community to have an opportunity to vote on a referendum for the dispensary. I understand why, some of the community is upset about it, but, I think it's important that we let the community decide what they want to do with that.
Well, and that's what I was going to ask you guys too, because you hear, and I watch the council meetings, and I think it's great that you guys do make sure that everyone is able to see those in a transparent way, and if they can't make it, they can still watch it. Right. It seems like there's always somebody saying, well, the majority of residents want this, or the residents want this, and it might be a public comment coming in saying, well, I've talked to X, Y, and Z people, and this is what they want. How are you guys, able to, and I'm sure it's tough in your position, trying to balance, what the majority of, your constituents want compared to, not the majority?
Yeah, I mean, I think the primary basis for that is the election. Yeah. The election sort of speaks to where things are going. I think we've had several elections now where people have wanted transparency, have wanted mm-hmm. accountability, and it's been clear from the results. I mean, these two guys won overwhelmingly in that election in the spring. And so we're trying to move forward with some policies that, improve how the city communicates with the voters. Absolutely. And if you don't mind me asking, on top of that, too, take me through some of those things that you guys are working on. And I think that would be a great place to start because, sometimes I've been talking to them, well, what's the actual, what do they want to do? What are they trying to do? And I think that's because of some of the public comments getting drug out of the woodwork.
Yeah. Well, one thing that we've done is we've changed the amount of time the citizens can speak. Mm-hmm. Previously, it was limited to 3 minutes. Right. It's now we passed an ordinance that allows them 5 minutes to speak. So, and I know that, I listen to the rhetoric, mm-hmm. But every meeting, I listen to what everyone has to say. And no matter what they have to say, I try to keep an open mind about it because I want... they keep me grounded. Yeah. No matter what it is, they keep me grounded. And I have something that I need to keep in mind that there's always another point of view, and I'm trying to get and understand the perspective. So I think that the additional 2 minutes is important, mm-hmm. and I appreciate all the comments, no matter how they feel about me. I do appreciate the comments, and people say, "How do you sit up there and you take it?" I don't take it personally.
Right.
I honestly don't take it personally. I want to sit there and be as objective and try to understand their point of view as best I can.
Well, and I think that's great to highlight too, because I mean, let's be honest here. This is business, and we're trying. You guys are having an idea of what your idea is to move the city forward,
Right.
and
Right.
I think sometimes folks might get offended thinking you guys are changing the world or trying to, but you don't have to do the name calling. Maybe just have a conversation and listen to the matters at hand.
Yeah, and some of the things we've done, I think, is the video thing is one of the major things that
big
we've
thing.
done. Just a live feed of the city council meetings, posting of agendas and minutes on the website, and not just posting it on the glass door at City Hall, which is what the former practice was. There's some other things that we would like to do to improve transparency, and we've gotten a good running start, but we still have a long ways to go.
Absolutely. And with that being said, I wanted to ask about the rec center too, because this is becoming, getting to the point where it's becoming pretty much in all the news stories as a mention of the rec center or, the roundhouse, there's a mention of it. I just don't understand, something, and this is just me personally. I didn't realize the public still had to pay for each use.
Oh, yeah.
When it's coming out of the tax dollar. And that's why I'm just kind of curious when you're talking to your constituents, do they know that? Or do they think that this is, kind of a YMCA and this isn't a, because I keep saying, well, this is a great place for kids to come play, but how can they afford the $15 or how much it is each day to go in there? And that's just kind of my thought and wanted to ask you guys
Sure.
that.
An issue.
So you've got a couple things going. You got the construction of it, which costs money.
Right.
And then you have the operation of it, which costs money every single year. And so you have to figure out a way to pay for the construction. And that's been an ongoing debate as to how that was paid for. But you also have to, make sure that the thing operates at at least a break-even pace. It's not losing money, because if it loses money, then it takes away from emergency services. It takes away from public works. It drains the general fund in order to maintain the facility. And so that's where a lot of the concern comes in.
Well, and I mean, at this point, it's going through the ribbon cutting, or the media was welcomed in to go through a tour. What are your guys' thoughts? Is there something you're looking at to maybe try to find a way to make this financially feasible?
Well, if you recall, in February, I suggested we take a look at a partnership with maybe the YMCA coming in. That's still my goal in all this. We haven't had any conversations yet, but I would like to still have that as an option to discuss with the YMCA or somebody, Boys and Girls Club, or somebody come in and operate it. That way we can get the operating expenses off the city toll.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we have to certainly look at other opportunities, because if we don't, then, all the rec centers that I've looked at, and I've looked at quite a few that are run by municipalities, they all lose money every single year, and they're a drain on the general fund. And so we have to look at ways to prevent that from happening going forward, and so we will be looking at that.
Well, and on top of that, too, another thing that was developing just over the last couple of days was the possibility of a wedding venue being developed on about 10 acres of Belk Park. With so many people going to the planning commission meeting, it looks like the developer pulled out and said, hey, we aren't going to do this. We're going to go into a different direction. What are your thoughts on it?
My original thought on it was, when I learned that it involved the parkland, I was opposed to it.
Right.
But I was asked to keep an open mind, and so I met with the developer on June the 4th. And I have to tell you, after visiting his venue in Peevely, Missouri, I was impressed. And I think it would have been a wonderful addition to Wood River. Having said that, I was always skeptical about the public accepting the idea of selling the parkland.
Because the reason is, correct me if I'm wrong, but the individual donated that land to the city
Correct.
of Wood River.
That's right.
Correct.
Back in the 50s. Yep.
And then, Jeremy, what are your thoughts on the wedding venue?
I was, like Bill, I was in favor of it. But, when the constituents come out overwhelmingly and say, we want something different, or to go in a different direction, I have to listen. And so that's sort of where I am now at this point.
Absolutely. And I wanted to ask you, too, you guys, with so much going on at these council meetings, I watch them, and sometimes it's hard to follow along because sometimes the argument has nothing to do with what's actually on the agenda. What's your kind of thoughts about, these... I hate to say, the personal attacks, but sometimes things are getting a little bit more heated and personal up there. And is there any chance that, have you spoke with maybe the mayor about starting to gavel some of these, comments, or maybe starting to rein them in?
Yeah, I mean, my preference would be to keep the meeting focused on just, Robert's Rules of Order.
Right.
Request that we, keep the meeting focused on the agenda items. And so that's what I would prefer, is that we keep those comments focused on that. I've reached out to several folks that have, expressed their discontent and tried to, I'm willing to meet with anyone,
right?
Under the right context, and talk about their disagreement and, whatever that is, and try to work for common ground.
Yeah.
But I mean, it would be really nice, and I think the voters want us to be focused on the agenda items and not on all of the personal issues.
Absolutely. We got to pay some bills, but we aren't going anywhere. I'm going to ask you guys if you can hang out with me for a couple more minutes. It's 10:40 on this 26th day of July. Our daily show rolls right around the corner after this one in downtown Alton.
Macias Insurance Agency, providing quality products with extremely competitive prices. As an independent provider, we source multiple companies to offer the best rates possible, covering auto, home, business, and life insurance. Our goal is to provide quality service that meets and exceeds customer expectations. You can rest easy knowing the Macias team is working round the clock to ensure that both you and the most important parts of your life are covered. Our qualified professionals make the insurance process easy so you can live carefree and focus on what matters most. Visit MaciasInsuranceAgency.com today to find out what our team can do for you.
For the biggest selection of pre-owned cars, trucks, and SUVs in the Riverbend, visit AltonToyota.com or stop by their location on the Homer Adams Parkway in Alton. Winner of the prestigious President's Award, Mungan Burkhardt Alton Toyota knows how to treat their customers, and they will help you find the vehicle that is perfect for you. For years, Mungan Toyota has been a fixture in the Riverbend, and now Mungan Burkhardt carries the tradition. New name, but the same great service you've come to expect.
I set the thermostat so my house would be warm when I got home from work, but the kitchen is still cool.
At Barrett Heating and Cooling, we stand behind every Linux system we sell.
My dealer said he'd take care of everything.
At Barrett Heating and Cooling, we understand everyone wants prompt, professional service.
Turns out it wasn't my furnace after all, just a little something blocking the vent.
Pretty smart dog if you ask me. For service you can count on, call Barrett Heating and Cooling.
Lennox, innovation never felt so good.
Has free checking become a thing of the past? Not if Liberty has anything to say about it. With 3 free personal checking options and even a free business checking account, free is alive and well at Liberty Bank, the local bank that gives you free checking choices and more cashing in your pocket. Bank locally, bank Liberty. For more information, visit www.bankliberty.com.
You're listening to Our Daily Show with CJ Nasello on RiverBender.com.
In the summertime, when the weather is high, you can stretch right up and touch the sky. When the weather's fine, you got women on your mind.
Welcome back to Our Daily Show. 10:43, a little bit of change right here on this Wednesday in downtown Alton. Councilman Bill Dettmers and Councilman Jeremey. I get paid. Let me do this. Councilman Jeremy Blake and Councilman Bill Dettmers joining us in studio. We were talking a little bit about, the things that have been going on, but I want to ask about your guys' plans for your terms in office, too, if you don't mind me asking. I'll leave it as an open, forum type of question. What are you looking to start hitting on first?
You want to go first?
Yeah, sure. I mean, some of the things we've been talking about is just the repair of sidewalks. We have a lot of crumbling sidewalks in the city and the older part of town. And, when folks have been complaining for years that they can't go from their front door to their car without walking over crumbling sidewalks, and
it's true.
It's an issue, and we would like to focus our attention on those sorts of things.
Right, and Woods River that's all done in house, correct, from the street department?
That's right.
Yeah.
Wow.
And we're also talking about reviewing the water and sewer rates. There's been an annual escalation in the rates for several years now. Mm-hmm. And so we're wanting to take a look at that to see if we are at a point where we can stop raising those rates. Mm-hmm. That's probably the number one complaint that I received while I was campaigning, that they said, hey, do something about the water and sewer rates. So we have had the discussion. We're not going to be able to do anything until next year, but at least it's on our agenda for something to discuss, to try to take a look at.
Is the reason being is because the rate's locked for this year? Is that?
Yeah, it's already set in the budget.
Okay. Absolutely.
So the rate is designed, it was originally passed 5 or 6 years ago where they had a huge increase up front, and then after that, then it was an increase every year into perpetuity until the end of time. So we want to take another look at that and look at maybe freezing that. So
yeah, absolutely. And then what are some of the other things that you guys are looking at too?
Well, one of the things that I've proposed is I'd like to have the council and the committee members undergo annual training for the Open Meetings Act. We have to do that when we first come on, but that's it. Mm-hmm. And there hasn't been changes to the Open Meeting Act in many, many years. But you never know, there might be a change, and it's always a good idea to get a refresher on it.
Right.
So that's one of the things that I've proposed, and it's being looked at right now. The city attorney, we got a new city attorney just within the last week or so, and I had proposed this about 6 weeks ago, and I was just holding off until we had the new attorney on board. So he's got it, and he's looking at it. I also wanted to do some ethics training. If you recall, when I was here in February, I talked about there was some electioneering that was going on back in 2020 with regard to the referendum to save the roundhouse, stop the reckless spending. And so I think it's important that the city employees understand what they can and they can't do with regard to those types of things and other things.
Right.
So I'm going to ask that all the city employees undergo an annual ethics training course.
Well, and too, I know that, a lot of municipalities have to take that. Governor Pritzker asked many municipalities to start making that mandatory too. So I know that that's kind of going through the state of Illinois and going to make its rounds. Do you guys see any pushback on those two items going forward?
No. In fact, the conversation I had with the city manager was he was all in favor of it.
That's great. So
I think it's just a matter of making sure it's something that's workable, because, the question is, well, what if they don't complete it? What's the penalty?
Gotcha.
Those are the types of questions that we're getting. So in fact, I just had a communication with the city attorney this morning, so he's looking at it, and I'm sure we're going to be hearing more from him in the near future.
Well, and before we go down the pipeline of more things that we're going to, you guys are going to try to accomplish, I think it's great that you mentioned those. You mentioned the city manager and you mentioned these folks, because I think sometimes when the general public and maybe I'm part of it too is reading those. It almost seems like, man, they don't even want to be in the same room, but you guys are working together. It's just, getting through a lot of, it seems like a lot of the static.
Yeah, sure. In fact, the Plan Commission last week was probably the most televised, most publicized, most transparent committee meeting that the city's ever had. Ever. There was over 100 people in that room.
Really?
Over 100 people in that room.
And we have to give, the folks on the committee credit for not just managing the intensity at the moment, but just being very professional about it.
In fact, Jesse Daniels, I called him the next day and complimented him. He's the chairman of the Plan Commission. He did a wonderful job of running that meeting. He did an excellent job.
I will say that I watched it, and I thought everyone did a very good job of holding themselves. And just because that's if you've never been in a situation like that, that can be intimidating.
Sure.
And to hold your moral ground and know what you guys are wanting to do, for the commission, I'm right there with you. Hats off to them.
Yep.
And then as we go look further and further, because we're kind of creeping up on the clock now, what else are we looking to do here in this term?
Well, one of the other things that we have discussed is the posting for city jobs. There's restrictions on certain types of jobs, like the police and the fire, that there's certain requirements that have to be fulfilled. But general jobs, right now the city has, I think it's an ordinance that requires that city employees be given the first right to fill a job opening. I think we got great employees, but I think if we're going to restrict it to just our own existing employees, then we need to, I think that we need to open that up and have a general announcement whenever there's an internal opening, so that we can put it out there in the public and try to get the best people. That's not to say that an employee cannot apply for the job, But I think we need to make it open to the public so they have an opportunity. That way we can get the best person.
Well, now, and currently as it sits, how long does it go before it's opened up to the public after it makes the rounds? Is it?
I'm not even sure what the timeline is.
Yeah, I'm not even sure there's been a policy in the past, but I do know they're starting to listen because there is a job posting out there currently. If folks are willing to, look at those things, but you just have to sort of work on the website to find it, and so we just want to make that as easy as possible for folks to see.
Well, and too, I mean, that's how you help keep growing Wood River, bringing some outside folks in that, and like you said, you guys have some great city employees, and I mean that, great street department, great police department, and I really, really mean that. And so just to add to that would be a great thing to do, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
And as we keep going through the list here, what else are we trying to tackle here in this term?
You mentioned, Jeremy mentioned about the job postings. I had a discussion with the city clerk and the city treasurer and the city manager about putting more information out on the website so that more information is available to the public. Trying to make it more easily accessible, like the city ordinances, records, copies of bills that have been paid, that type of stuff. As much as possible. Now, obviously, there's certain things you can't put out there, but private letters from the attorneys and stuff. And there's other things that you can't put out there. But I think there's a lot more information that we could put out there, and I'd like to see it categorized so it's easier for the people to access the information.
Absolutely. Yeah. And, with that being said, we have about a minute left actually on the dot here before we have to take that last break. What's your thoughts to, the folks that are kind of following along with this, but most importantly, the folks in Wood River that are, kind of going through this each and every day, trying to figure out what's going on. What's your message to your constituents today?
I would say, look, we are a major thoroughfare between Alton and Edwardsville and Madison County. And folks from both sides of the county come through Wood River, and so we have a chance and opportunity to be a shining star in Madison County, and why not take advantage of that? So, we've got 143 that goes right through town. We're increasing our traffic rates through downtown now, and we've got a huge opportunity in front of us, and so we just want folks to understand that we're not missing that.
Mm-hmm. And my message is that there's still a lot of mistrust between the community and the city. I think that there's a lot of effort that's being put forward by the city trying to bring business into the town. The people need to be patient, because I think the issue with this wedding venue is that they didn't trust the city with regard to the park. There's a process that we go through before we vote on these things. The Planning Commission was just the first step in several different steps that we're going to be taking before we ever got to selling that land. So give us an opportunity to work through the process. We don't know, the council members don't know all that goes on with these initial dealings with the developers. We try to develop as much information over time, and we're interested in what the people have to say. And that's why it's important that they be patient, give us an opportunity to work through this, because this council is not like the prior councils. We are listening. We want to know what they have to say, and we are not going to ignore their opinions on this stuff.
Absolutely. And guys, thank you so much for giving us the trust to come on here today and let us know your,
Thank you for the opportunity.
Oh, no problem. I really appreciate it. If you guys ever want to come back on, if you have anything more to talk about, you're more than welcome.
Sounds good. Thanks, CJ.
Appreciate it.
No problem. It's 10:53. We got to take a quick break because we got to wrap up this show. We'll come back after this.